Hey folks, this is Rhykker with the Gaming News Wrap-Up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include one of the biggest leaks in video game history, resulting in some ISPs tracking down people who downloaded the leaked material. Sony's fears about Microsoft being exposed in a leaked document. China being the world leader in cracking down on unethical gaming monetization. And more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the description below, but right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. Now before I move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, Historic Mail. With the holiday season coming up and people struggling to find ideas for gifts for people, especially people who seem to have everything they want already, Historic Mail makes for a thoughtful gift for anyone who has an appreciation of history or the lost art of letter writing. Basically, a bunch of history buffs came together one day and they said, hey, how cool would it be to receive on a weekly basis a letter from a historical figure, be it Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Edison, that you would get mailed to you a reproduction of one of their authentic letters in their handwriting. And also included with it a typed version of the letter because sometimes their handwriting can be a little hard to read, and also extra info on just historical documentation to give context to that letter. And so that's what Historic Mail is. It's this subscription service where you get these weekly letters. Let's see who this one's from. This is a letter from Winston Churchill to his wife, and he signed with this drawing. And it tells us that they had nicknames for each other. Churchill was her pug, and Clementine was his cat. Oh my gosh, here's a secret letter from President Roosevelt to Oppenheimer. It literally says secret on it. Oh, Walt Disney Productions. Look at this. This is from Walt Disney to Richard Nixon. Oh my gosh, this is a letter from Roosevelt to his children. It's just him being a loving father. And he drew them out a little story. This is to Mrs. Roosevelt from Albert Einstein. He was trying to appeal to her to get through to President Roosevelt. And here's some personal correspondence from JFK, then Jack Kennedy, when he was still a naval officer, replying to Claire Booth Luce. And Historic Mail has an American history pack that covers letters dating back to the founding of the Republic in 1776, all the way to 1976 when the Cold War was at its height. There's letters from Franklin, Lincoln, Roosevelt, and also other great historical figures who have affected American life in some way, like Walt Disney, Nikola Tesla, and Mark Twain. History buffs would love this. And you can even personalize it with a gift certificate with your name and the recipient's name on it. Historic Mail offers 10 weekly letters for $59.99, with bigger 25 letter and even full year 52 letter packs available. So this holiday season, surprise your loved ones with this timeless gift. And you can enjoy 10% off all their products with their Christmas sale. So go to historicmail.com/Rhykker to get your gifts and help support the channel. Kicking things off with some Diablo 4 news. If you got some Duriel runs available to do, now's a great time to do them. In a new hotfix, the Echo of Duriel drop rates for Uber Uniques have now been doubled until January 8th. Now I know everyone is rushing to the comments to make the joke, double of 0 is still 0. I get it, I have not found my Shaco. I've done well over 300 Duriel runs, maybe close to 400 now. I haven't counted them all. But in all that time, I have found 2 Andariel's Visage. Those are the only Ubers that I have found. But I have run with tons of people, I have run with several people who have found Shacos, who have found Grandfathers and Melted Hearts of Selig, and you hear stories about people getting them on their first try sometime, or one of their early tries, so again, if you have the materials, you have until January 8th to get these done. Now's the time to just cash in all your mats. This patch also made an update to the Vampiric Power Metamorphosis. The unstoppable duration previously scaled with level, making it last longer. Now, it's always giving you a flat 2.5 seconds at all levels, no longer increasing. The tooltip was not updated, but that is how it operates. And this is a good change simply because of the way that this skill interacted with some builds. You actually wanted to ideally keep Metamorphosis at rank 1, which sucked, because there's no way to de-level one of these powers once you've leveled it. And the reason for that is with the unique item Thibaut's Will. Whenever you become unstoppable, you get a bunch of primary resource. So you want to become unstoppable as often as possible, and you could only do that by keeping the duration as low as possible on Metamorphosis, because the longer your unstoppable lasts, the longer it takes to become unstoppable again. So this is actually technically a nerf, because the lowest duration I believe was 2 seconds, so now we have 2.5 seconds as the minimum, but overall this does make things function better, especially for people who did overlevel their metamorphosis before they realized what was going on. Also, a PSA, until December 26th, you can get your Christmas present from Blizzard in the gift shop, not the gift shop, no, the paid money shop. There is a free horse cosmetic that you can get for free, only until the 26th of December. Also, for those who haven't yet completed the midwinter event or are still interested in getting some of those cosmetics, last Friday they implemented another patch that increased the rate at which you get those materials. I do feel that overall it was taking too long to farm up everything, given how short the event is. Not that it's a very short event, but given the amount of time the event was running for, and it's during the holidays, maybe people are going on vacation and stuff, an average player probably would not have enough hours to get everything. This helps out a little bit. Also in Diablo news, I released a new lore video. We had left off the lore series right before the release of Diablo 4 with the story of Diablo Immortal, what takes place in the story of Immortal. This latest lore video that I released covers the story of Cain and Leah and some other players in the lead up to the story of Diablo 3. There's a whole novel called The Order where Cain and Leah go on all kinds of adventures, so we talk about stories that a lot of Diablo players just aren't aware of. Do check that out. And then lastly, I also have a reaction video in which we discuss and hear other creators' thoughts on the, I don't know if you can call it a rumor, the alleged leaked survey that was pricing the first expansion of Diablo 4 at up to $100 with certain add-ons. And so it's a video discussing whether the expansion is worth $100, whether an expansion for D4 ought to be worth $100. And so there's a lot more nuance to the discussion than that big topic that we explore from a variety of angles. You can check that out as well. Before we move on from that, though, I just want to mention, I do not believe the expansion will cost $100. Maybe some deluxe edition, maybe, but there's no way that the base version is going to be $100. Then lastly, if you're a classic D2 player, the new season for Median XL Sigma has launched. This is the longest running mod for the game. Full patch notes in the description. All right, moving on to some Microsoft / Activision / Blizzard news. He's gone. Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick is officially stepping down on the 29th of December, which I believe is the last business day of the year. Previously, Blizzard President Mike Ybarra reported to Bobby Kotick. Now he's going to be reporting directly to Microsoft. Matt Booty is the president of games, content, and studios at Microsoft. Ybarra will now report directly to him, as well as the president of Activision now reporting directly to him. So instead of Blizzard reporting to Activision, now Blizzard reports directly to Microsoft. Activision is not even in the picture anymore whatsoever. That means that Matt Booty is now not just overseeing Xbox, he's also overseeing Activision, Blizzard, and Bethesda. And from what I gather, Booty takes a more hands-off approach in letting people do their thing. You know, as opposed to coming in and saying, hey, make more money. So this really is good news for everyone. Is that going to mean things at Blizzard are going to change like that overnight? Absolutely not. This was a festering wound for years that slowly sapped good people away from Blizzard, changed the culture over time. It's going to take time for things to heal. But this is good news for everyone. It's good news for Blizzard employees who can now feel once again empowered to just make good games as opposed to make things that are going to make as much money as possible. That's good for us as gamers because that's going to mean better games, and happier devs mean better games as well. And hey, it's even good for Bobby because he gets his golden parachute, and he's probably, I don't even think he's going to retire. He's going to go get hired by some other company and make even more ridiculous amounts of money because he doesn't have enough. All right, on to our next story. The biggest leak in gaming history in recent memory. I'm not going to say ever, but this one was massively significant. The company itself that was affected is Insomniac. So not the biggest and most well-known company. People are going to say, well, you know, the overall Sony leak was bigger. Here's the thing with this leak. A ransomware group that I'm not going to name because I don't want to give attention to them. A ransomware group stole 1.7 terabytes of data from Insomniac. Who is Insomniac? A company that's been around for a long time. They became known for Spyro the Dragon and Ratchet and Clank. And then a few years ago, they made one of the best Spider-Man games ever. And that's how they're known now. Now, out of that 1.7 terabytes of data, sorry, 1.67. Technically. I come from a geology background. We round things off like mad. Like, oh no, it's not 465,000 years. It's 500,000 years. It's all good. It's all the same on geologic timescales. There were 1.3 billion files there. And it's not just about the number. It's that we got the product slate of everything that they're planning to launch up until the year 2035. Details on unannounced games. An entire game in development was launched with a playable build. But the absolute worst, employee personal information and details. All of this together is really what makes the scale of this so abhorrent. So the ransomware group, they stole this, they put up a message with their demands saying, we want 50 Bitcoin, which is worth about $2 million, before X, and in general in the industry, you don't give in to these demands. And so apparently there were no buyers, and what happened? They released it all to the public. So from this leak, we saw that Sony has an exclusivity deal with Marvel for X-Men until the year 2035. That means don't expect to see any X-Men games on Xbox or even any exclusively X-Men characters in any Xbox game. PC is probably fine, but nothing on Xbox until at least the year 2035. How much did this cost them? $620 million. That's the price of this exclusivity deal. Cost of AAA game development is absurd, and add-on licensing deals with major franchises like this, and it goes beyond absurd. But that also explains why you see some AAA studios, after 1 or 2 flops max, shut down. Because when you're spending that much money, hundreds of millions of dollars on one game, and that game flops, you're out of business. Now again, we also mentioned that an entire playable build of the game was leaked, and that would be the upcoming Wolverine game. This is not a demo. This is not an alpha. This is an in-dev version of the game, and it's being disseminated, and people are actually playing it on PC, because yes, even games that are made for console are developed on PC while they're being made. And people are criticizing it, not realizing the game's in development. This wasn't ever meant to be seen by the public. It should not be a surprise that while a game is being worked on, yeah, it doesn't look great. Yeah, there's bugs. Yeah, it's janky. It's in development. That's not what it's going to look like at launch. I don't know if people don't know how games are made, but yeah, the version of the game that devs are running runs at like 12 FPS, unoptimized, placeholder assets, hideous things, lack of animations, because they don't need all of that so early on in development. They just got to get the core, you got to get the core stuff right. Sometimes there's even placeholder story elements, so I wouldn't go by anything that you're seeing within a build that was never designed to be seen by anyone outside of their own company. Imagine you're in school and you got to write an essay, and you're just scribbling down some notes on what you want the essay to be. You're getting your thoughts together, and the teacher comes by, grabs that out of your hand, and grades that. Now, don't go off and try to download this, because people who have downloaded it, there are reports that they have been contacted by their ISPs. They've been caught. Their own ISPs are sending them DMCA notices. And before anyone claims, oh, what, awful DRM, what Big Brother software are they putting in their game to trap people? This was never meant for you to download. Within their own company, yeah, they need to know who of their employees on what system is running the build, so that if something crashes, whatever telemetry needs to be sent back to their own servers. So that's probably what's happening. They have stuff built in to get telemetry on their own builds that their own employees are using in their own offices, and now you've just installed this spyware or whatever on your own computer. Congratulations, you played yourself. Now, Insomniac put out a statement on the leaks. They thanked everyone for the outpouring of compassion and unwavering support that they received. They mentioned that the leak includes early development details about Marvel's Wolverine for PlayStation 5. They state that development of the game continues as planned, and noted that the game is in early production and will no doubt greatly evolve throughout development. Now, an interesting thing that came out of this leak was slides showing just how terrified Sony is of Microsoft having purchased Activision Blizzard. They write that Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard positions it to leapfrog our current pillars. It points to Activision's strength across live service games, mobile, and its PC storefronts, aspects in which Sony is weak. It points to the Call of Duty threat looming in 2027, how Microsoft owning Call of Duty could disrupt and threaten console gaming and game subscription markets. It fears a shift from PlayStation to Xbox sales because of Call of Duty. It fears the exclusivities that Microsoft could wield. It considers there to be a massive threat to PlayStation Plus, which currently makes $1.5 billion annually. It's afraid that Microsoft's going to put up Activision games on Game Pass day one. So why would they buy it on PlayStation if they can play it for free on Game Pass? It points to Activision's incredible strategic value across live service. It admits that its own pillars of business strategy are already dated and behind the competition, and that it needs to expand. Now, I never thought that Sony was genuinely afraid of this acquisition. I thought that they were just trying to hurt the competition or afraid of Microsoft competing on a more even footing. But the fact that these are internal documents really goes to show that they are genuinely terrified. Now I get why they fought so hard in court with the FTC to stop this acquisition. Now the last part of the leak that we're going to talk about is something that you may want to skip if you want to avoid spoilers about Insomniac's upcoming games. So they have their full 10-year product slate leaked. We'll mention them in a second here, but we'll give you a chance to skip ahead. I will preface this, however, by saying that I don't know of any company in the video game industry whose 10-year plan worked out exactly as predicted. Because of the licensing agreements that Insomniac has with, spoiler, it could be a little bit more rigid, but still I would be incredibly surprised if everything pans out exactly as we're going to reveal. So if you don't want to know what games Insomniac plans to release over the next 10 years, skip ahead to the next timestamp. Otherwise, alright, what we're seeing in that leaked product slate. In 2025, Marvel's Venom. 2026, Marvel's Wolverine. 2027, Marvel's Spider-Man 3 Part 1. 2028, Marvel's Spider-Man 3 Part 2. Looks like they're breaking up this game into 2 parts. 2029, a new Ratchet & Clank game. 2030, Marvel's X-Men. Then around 2031 to 2032, it looks like they have a new IP. I don't know if there's going to be something Marvel as well. Then 2033, X-Men 2. And 2035, it sounds like there's going to be the next installment of the new IP, which also makes me think it's probably related to Marvel. So for fans of classic Insomniac, you're getting one Ratchet & Clank game over the next 10 years. Otherwise, Insomniac has turned into a Marvel studio. And you know what? Good for them. Sure, it's sad if you wanted more Ratchet & Clank games, but hey, they made it. They made an amazing Spider-Man game. They have secured an enormously lucrative contract to produce a series of games that are going to do very well for the studio, assuming they continue to make really good games, and all indications are they will. So sure, it's sad that they don't have the resources to allocate to crank out more Ratchet & Clanks, but hey, good for them. And they're still making great games. On to some quick Starfield news. The official Bethesda Reddit account posted that in 2024, they'll be updating the game roughly every 6 weeks, starting with the next major update in February. On top of regular bug fixes and quality of life improvements, we can expect city maps, new ways to travel, new ways to customize your ships, new gameplay options to further adjust difficulty, official mod support with the launch of Creations, and their first story expansion, Shattered Space. Then, in a deeper article, they also mention new survival mechanics will be added. So this is a whole lot of teaser, not a lot of meat. But I turn the question to you folks, if you bought Starfield, what do you hope to see in an update? 1, were you happy with the game? 2, if you weren't happy with the game, do you see any update potentially bringing you back? And if you are happy with the game, what do you hope to get out of these updates? Sound off in the comments. Then in some World of Warcraft news, the 2024 roadmap for World of Warcraft was released. We're going to be getting 3 more content updates for the current expansion, Dragonflight, and they're not going to be following the usual 3-act structure with a raid at the end of each chapter, but they'll be continuing the story's aftermath. And it seems like patch 10.2.6 has some kind of skull and crossbones associated with it, so I don't know if it's going to be like a pirate adventure. Some speculation is that it's about hardcore. Another highlight is in Season 4, in spring, we're going to get some Troll and Draenei heritage armor. We got confirmation that The War Within is coming this summer, likely August. And I also don't know what that Dark Heart can refer to, but I encourage you folks to sound off in the comments with your speculations on all this. Then, in an unusual story, China is paving the way for more ethical monetization in video games. Yeah, didn't expect that headline. Now, we have previously heard stories about China cracking down on children playing games too much and games that are basically trying to get children to play too much. But now it's actually going straight for the monetization. The government has released a draft for new restrictions that hit upon a lot of very common manipulative techniques used in monetization to get people to spend more or play longer. They're going after daily login rewards, bonuses for first-time spenders, incentives for repeated spending. Publishers are not allowed to offer loot boxes to minors, which that's starting to be par for the course in the West. Well, not yet, but that's what's happened in the West. But China's going even beyond that. There's a prohibition on allowing in-game items to be used as speculative assets in auctioning them. And games must impose spending limits on players. Games with loot boxes must allow people to buy the stuff in loot boxes directly. And if a game shuts down, the devs must, or the publishers must, refund you any unspent currency that you have in real money. Following this news, Tencent shares dropped 16% and NetEase shares dropped 25%. They're the two major Chinese video game publishers. Now, I don't know how I feel about all of these changes. Overall, I'm just surprised that, China's going after its own video game industry, and it's the country whose industry is most known for these shadier tactics is now at the forefront of paving the way for the most ethical forms of monetization in games. And I know some people don't like government interference, and I'm not weighing in on this one way or the other, but at the end of the day, the argument is the market should resolve itself, or publishers should regulate themselves. It doesn't happen. It hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. There is no evidence to suggest that any corporations are going to collectively come together and say, all right, you know what? We should stop doing this shady stuff. We should stop doing this psychologically manipulative stuff. We've made enough money. All right, everyone, every CEO ever, simmer down. We're rich enough now. Okay. Not going to happen. Whether that warrants government interference is an entirely other question. Then, in an update on the game the day before, well, according to a tweet, they've announced that the game will be officially retired and servers turned off on January 22nd. And everyone will be getting proactive refunds from Steam. That means if you bought the game and did not yet request a refund, Steam is just going to refund you without you having to do anything. This is how catastrophically this game has failed. Again, people were calling this game a scam. We spoke about this game last week, in case you're out of the loop on this one. How the developers shut down pretty much instantly after the game released. The game was terrible. The game was falsely advertised. Again, people have been calling this a scam for a really long time. And if it is a scam, it is the most spectacularly failed scam ever, given they made no money here. All of their sales got refunded or will be refunded. It could still be a scam. There's definitely been unethical stuff going on. They've been lying about in their marketing. So there's something weird that's been going on. But maybe instead of it being a scam against us, it was a scam against their investors. Maybe they tricked some entities into giving them a bunch of money to make a game, and they were just showing or pretending that they were making a game and doing just the bare minimum to pretend that they're making a game. And then they release the game, and now they can say, well, the game failed. Sorry, but we gave it an honest go with all your money. We actually pocketed 95% of it, to buy an island in the Canary Islands. But we tried. Look, you don't understand how games work. We made a real game. You don't know what asset flips and stealing assets are. Look how good our game looks. It looks like a AAA game. That's where all your money went. Unfortunately, we just couldn't, we couldn't keep the servers running. The expenses were too much. Unless you want to give us more money, but you said you can't give us more money. So, we're closing up shop. Sorry, that's what happens with business ventures, right? You invest the money and sometimes the money disappears. It's venture capital. But what do you folks think happened here? What is this story? How does this happen? Why does this happen? I gotta meet up with Force. We gotta talk this out at some point. Again, folks, Force Gaming, check out his YouTube channel. He's been covering this for years. This disaster of a game, Lumen. He was not, as I say, he's Nosferatu. He was Nostradamus, who foresaw the coming. Yeah, Nosferatu would foresee the coming of the sunrise. Anyway, folks, our last story, Christmas is coming up. Tomorrow? No, tomorrow's Christmas Eve. Monday, whether you celebrate Christmas, whether you celebrate something else, whether you don't celebrate anything other than just having some time off of work, from my family to yours, be it Merry Christmas, be it Happy Holidays, have a good winter, be merry, take some time with loved ones, appreciate what you have in your life, reflect on the good that has happened in this year, no matter how small it might have been. Have a nice meal, enjoy a warm beverage, take some time to play that game you've been putting off playing for your vacation, and we wish you health and happiness. And that's going to wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to check out last week's video again, in which we discuss the catastrophe, the full story of the day before. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content. Ho ho ho.